I was driving around in the car today with my son when we passed a church and he suddenly asked,
Dada, why did they put God on top of the plus?
Well, after he said that and I stifled a laugh, I had one of those Andy Griffith moments. You know about those. When a boy asks his pa about something and his pa comes down with a bit of wisdom.
Cage sure looks awful empty, don't it, Pa?
Yes, son, it sure does. But don't the trees seem nice and full?
So I said to my son, Son, you know there's some folks who believe in God, right? And those people believe that God made the world. Well, when he first made it, it was all perfect. Everybody got along with each other. The lions played with the lambs, and the dogs climbed trees with the cats. No one got sick. Nobody died. That is until that old snake gave an apple to Eve. You remember her, right? She was the first woman. Well, she took that apple and ate it, and gave some to her sweetheart Adam. And well, sir, as soon as they both finished biting into that apple, all kind of trouble started brewing. Those lions, well, they started to eat the lambs. And the dogs, well, they just started doing what dogs do today. Well, that made God mad, powerful mad, and people began to be sorry for what they'd done, even if they hadn't done anything. It seems that when Adam and his girlfriend ate that apple, no matter how good a boy you are, God's mad at you. Because them two youngins a long time ago ate that apple and made God mad at everybody. So to say, I'm sorry, sir, would you forgive me, sir? God asked people to bring him the best of what they got. So people brought their best lambs and their best cows and their best goats and chickens. And if they were a farmer, they'd bring their best ears of corn or their best mess of string beans or maybe their best watermelon. Well, they'd give those things to the preacher man, and the preacher man would burn all that stuff up in a big old fire. Seems that God liked to see people burn their best stuff so he could smell it. God likes the smell of burning stuff. But over time, that got a bit boring for God, I reckon, because he changed the rules and wanted a different way for people to tell him they're sorry. So he went and put on a man costume and came down to earth and hid among all the people. He'd tell them he was the son of God, and he was actually just God wearing a man suit, and he'd tell them how much he loved them and how much he wanted to forgive them for being such bad folks, but they had to believe in him, or else he'd toss them into a lake of fire so they'd burn up for all time. Something about this burning. Well, some folks didn't take too kindly to all this talk of the Son of God and loving and burning, so they got mad at God and decided they wanted to kill him. But what they didn't know was that was exactly what God wanted them to do. See, he wanted to die up on that plus sign so he could come back to life. And when they did just as he'd wanted, he popped back up after having been buried just as fresh as a daisy, and then told some people if they believe that story, they don't have to burn no more of their little lambs or goats, and God would forgive them for being naughty, and he'd let them into his special place up in the sky. Isn't that something? And you know what my boy said in reply? He said,
Dada, that's just plain stupid.